welcome to this edition of CityWorld exclusive interviews. We're going to be talking with Tamaya Denard, Director of Community Affairs at City Hall. So make sure you keep it locked right here, and we're going to go ahead and start the show. Alright?
Hi, I'm Chai West with CityWorld, doing an exclusive interview today with Tamaya Denard.
Hi, Tamaya Denard. I am the Director of Community Affairs for Cincinnati City Council Member PG Sittenfeld.
Sittenfeld, okay. All right. Tamaya. Okay, we
Okay.
Tamaya, so you said you've been at City Hall for, how long have you been in City Hall?
We officially took office December 1st, 2011, so about 8 months now.
8 months, okay. And your position has changed from
a little bit.
From campaigning to governing.
Yeah.
Tell us the difference between the two. Give us a little.
Over the campaign, my official title for the campaign was Director of Community Outreach, which essentially was, is the same thing as Director of Community Affairs. The difference this time, though, is, as a campaign volunteer, no one was paying me. It was just going out, and essentially every day I was going to sell my candidate, and tell people why I thought that they should vote for him. You kind of pivot into actually governing, where you're elected. The people have trusted what you said, and they have elected PG. So now it's, being accountable and doing the things that we said that we were going to do along the way. As I was mentioning to you off camera, now, and before I was a volunteer, but now I'm actually, a paid employee of the city of Cincinnati. So the accountability is so much higher now to make sure that, I am responsive to constituents and making sure that I'm doing the things that they, would have us to do, so that, not for the sake of getting reelected, but, just for being, keeping our word and doing what we said we were going to do. We ran on the promise that, 52 neighborhoods in Cincinnati would be important, and we don't want that to get lost.
Okay. So what are some of the things that you propose to do for the community that have been implemented already?
Well, we've done a lot of great things. One of the main things we wanted to do, what I felt a lot of people, what was the issue as I was campaigning and talking to people, and a lot of people were just jaded by government as a whole, but in particular, city government, because they felt like, because I'm in Evanston, I don't matter. Because I live in, Bond Hill, I don't matter. And so for me, it was a matter of making sure that, when they call, we listen, we return phone calls, we show up. I've gone personally. It's not enough for me to just sit in City Hall, the air-conditioned City Hall, and take calls. I physically, if I have an older constituent who doesn't drive, I will go out to you. I don't want you to feel, I worked for you. And so it was a matter of just making sure that people knew that I knew that I worked for them. And we've done a lot of great things, both on a larger and a smaller scale. We've helped a lot of different people. I mean, some examples was, are that we recently, we had a person have an issue with towing, and everybody has had their car towed, and there's a lot of unfair laws as it relates to towing. And when you get your car towed, they're the nastiest people you want to ever deal with, because they have you in a cross because you need your car, and they charge you whatever. So we had a constituent contact our office because he felt like he got a raw deal, and the person I work for, PG, looked into it, and we found out that this particular towing company were, taking people for their money all over the city. And that was something that everybody could get behind. I mean, I don't care if you were young, old, what neighborhood, black, white, everybody has had their car towed. And it was amazing how many people, you can only charge by law. It's $95 for the tow and $12 per day. People were paying, this particular constituent was, paid $500 when his fee should have been about $100. But
so they were being
they were overcharging
people.
And knew that they were overcharging people. But when your car is towed, you need your car, you're going to pay whatever you need to do to get your car back. I know I've been a victim of towing. So we got that particular tow company taken off the city rotation. So treating people unfairly.
Now that's interesting, because some of like something of that nature, you don't think that you could get help with that.
No,
so
you
a lot
don't.
of times people just accept, and this is what it is, and you know.
Unfortunately, that's it.
Wow, I wish I had known that.
With a lot of things, though, it's like with people. Like one thing I like about our city hall office is that a lot of people they accept things because it's always been that way. Whereas we look at things and we say, okay, there could be a reason that it's always been that way, okay, but let's find out. And we might do some research, and then we might find out that it needs to be this way because this is the law. But sometimes we find out it's this way because it's always been this way, and nobody's cared enough or thought enough to change it. So that's one of the wonderful things I love about my job. We recently had a lady in Avondale, older lady. She was a victim of, she lives near Children's Hospital, which is a great organization in our city. But on her small street, cars were parking on either side, and she couldn't get off her street. And she thought, well, you know, I don't really have a voice. This is Children's Hospital. They bring so much money into the city. They're, you know, one of the top, you know, hospitals in the country. Where we, you know, she called us, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna come to you. I came to her, and we got her street, you know, we got it where they can only be parking on one side of the street. You know, people need to know that, you know, that for so long they've had people at city council who didn't care about what was going on in every neighborhood. So we ran on the promise that every neighborhood would be important, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
More CityWorld right after this.
I saw it. I was out there and it appeared, it disappeared, and I looked over at you and think, are you seeing this too? Because I couldn't believe it. I said, you know, I'm glad you...
This guy can't describe. You know, it's been a strange.
I mean, like, oh my God, I really can't believe what I just. Damn, it was the coldest thing ever. Like, I mean, he just like popped up and now he's gone. He was like a Pop-Tart.
I mean, I saw this ominous light. I can't even put it into words.
No one knows what to make of this mysterious man, but somehow he has impacted people's lives in a strange way. Did you hear that? What the hell?
following copyrighted material is presented under the provisions of fair use. All rights reserved where applicable. A queen she be, highly, divinely. Her perpetual patent exclusion from the popular public pantheon reminds me how she, many she's, several scores of her she progeny were scorched and scorned, forbidden and forlorn, sinisterly sworn into sexist secrecy for centuries. Sleeping sycophants still steadily say she could never represent the divine feminine. Upon close inspection, one finds distortions deeper than ancient Cushite baptismal pools early Christians went swimming in. Sunday school lessons stress and never question the images taught ya, but evidence shows the models used were Medici's and Borgia's. We can't afford to disregard the design and the history that could destroy the deception, dismantle the mystery. Why aren't more of us searching and looking? Smell the stew those that dig for truth are cooking. Images themselves aren't inherently problematic, but when paired with devious, dubious, dehumanizing context, intent, and events, the denominator is synaptic static. What's crazy and wild is that the original origin points to a certain Eastern mother and child, a Kemetic Ethiopian ethereal emissary of the highest eternal echelon. Behind closed doors, there's much bowing to a black image going on. She beckons, she calls for more to share her story, set her free from her prescribed walls. Who is she? See the wicked weaver's web untangle. She's the Black Madonna, the original guardian angel.
Let's get down with the get down. CityWorld is back.
So is it just your office? Is it your particular office that people can call in and if they have a complaint or concern about something?
They can call any office,
okay.
But we encourage people to call our office. I tell people when I go to community council meetings, like, call me, and then I go, no, you don't really. We want you to call our office. One thing we're getting ready to embark on next week is while council is on recess, PG is actually going to visit 52 neighborhoods in 2 weeks. We're going to go to every single neighborhood, and one way or the other. While I'm not, talking about any other council office, they're on recess. We don't see this as recess. We see, okay, how can we take advantage of this time? So we'll be in every single neighborhood in one capacity or another. Like, for instance, the Fay Apartments, which are now known as Row Hill, we're going to a basketball tournament there. We're going to, a coffee shop and culture. We'll be all over the place.
So there's specific places within the community that you're going. Is this a foot to pavement type of movement where you're actually getting out walking the streets, or there's like a particular location that you're going to be at where the neighborhood can actually come and say, hey, this is what's going on, and kind of voice
it'll be a mixture.
Okay.
But we're going to, make the list known so that if someone says, oh, what is he going to do in Sailor Park? Oh, wait a minute, he's going to be here in Sailor Park. I'm going to show up there and talk to him. We want to make sure we're accessible. So we're not keeping it a secret. We're going to let you know where we're going to be and what times we're going to be there. So if you're a constituent and you want to, have a chance to talk to your city council person, you'll be able to. So in some instances, I think we'll be hitting the street. We're doing like a walking tour of various neighborhoods, but some we're visiting, like in North Avondale. We're going to a summer enrichment camp, and PG's going to talk about, how he got involved in politics. So it'll be, community council meetings are good, but they're kind of run of the mill, and sometimes you don't always get a good feel for the true nature of the neighborhood. So we're trying to get out there and get a good feel and have fun with it too.
How often are the council meetings held?
They're on recess right now, but they're every Wednesday at 2:00 at City Hall.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just so that the viewers can know. Some people probably haven't in the past taken advantage of the opportunity to be able to share this story, to even call in, because a lot of people just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good opportunity for people to voice.
I'm a huge fan. I'm not ashamed to say I'm a huge fan of President Obama. I think he's wonderful. But I will say that people get caught up in national politics. So much politics are local. You will be amazed how many decisions are made at the local level in terms of community council meetings and city council meetings. So a lot of times, every 4 years, we get excited about the presidential race, which is a great thing. But in between those 4 years, a lot of stuff goes on, like, there's state races and local races. And I encourage people to get more involved in their city politics, because, you have an effect on, how money gets diverted in your neighborhood. So,
So prior to coming on at City Hall, what was some of the jobs that you had done? What are some of the things that you experienced that led you to this point?
My background is real estate. I worked in a real estate capacity, both for real estate law firm. I worked for Duke Energy in a real estate department. But I've had a lot of different jobs, and I think they've all played some part to, as any life experience does, to getting here. Like, for instance, at a law firm I worked at, I answered the phone a lot. So little things I pick up, like, answering the phone, even though they can't see me, answering the phone with a smile. So I make sure I do that, because even though they can't physically see me, they can kind of tell whether or not you're happy on the phone. So that's something I picked up, working at a law firm, that I use today in the city council. So, when you call our city hall office, you're going to get an answer. Well, a few of us answer the phone, all of us answer the phones, but, you'll know you're talking to somebody who actually wants to talk with you. We're excited to talk with you. So it's not, hello, it's like, hey, thanks for calling us. And when we say thank you, we mean it. So everything is, and even to, like, I had a run in fashion a little bit. I worked at the Gap, and I did visual merchandising. So I'm and PG will tell you, I'm very instrumental in how he dresses. I tell him, what he needs to wear. He probably hates it, but
I was just getting ready to ask, how does he take that?
He's a single man, and so but I have to, and he's young. We're all young, but, image is very important. Right. So I always try to make sure that's not officially in my job description. Okay. He probably wishes I didn't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
So were there ever times where you told him, look, you look a hot mess. So
all the time. Okay. And it's interesting, because he's like a little brother to me. When we were friends before we came to City Hall. So we have a genuine friendship. So sometimes I probably take liberties that other people probably wouldn't take. But I do tell him when I remember I was in France in January.
How far do you all? I'm sorry, but how far do you all go back?
About a few years. We volunteered together at the Free Store Food Bank, and we just kind of found out we had a lot of the same politics, and we started hanging out. And then probably 2 years ago, he said he wanted to run for city council, and he asked would I help. And
wow,
I did, and I didn't know where it was going to lead. I just knew that based on our conversation, and we both had similar politics, that I thought he'd be good for Cincinnati. I thought he'd be a good change of pace for Cincinnati. And so I went out there just believing that, I had a career, and I was, strong in my career, but I went out there and felt like, let me get people to know him like I knew him. And I thought he'd be an incredible change agent for Cincinnati, which I think so far, 8110, I think he has been. Okay. That's kind of how we, got started. And then we just, he's one of my best friends, and my husband loves him. Like, I was laughing the other day. I think I have more pictures of him on my iPhone than my husband, so we laugh about that all the time. But it's been great.
More CityWorld right after this.
The following copyrighted material is presented under the provisions of fair use. All rights reserved where applicable. A queen she be, highly, divinely, Her perpetual patent exclusion from the popular public pantheon reminds me how she, many she's, several scores of her she progeny were scorched and scorned, forbidden and forlorn, sinisterly sworn into sexist secrecy for centuries. Sleeping sycophants still steadily say she could never represent the divine feminine. Upon close inspection, one finds distortions deeper than ancient Cushite baptismal pools early Christians went swimming in. Sunday school lessons stress and never question the images taught ya, but evidence shows the models used were Medici's and Borgia's. We can't afford to disregard the design and the history that could destroy the deception, dismantle the mystery. Why aren't more of us searching and looking? Smell the stew those that dig for truth are cooking. Images themselves aren't inherently problematic, but when paired with devious, dubious, dehumanizing context, intent, and events, the denominator is synaptic static. What's crazy and wild is that the original origin points to a certain Eastern mother and child, a Kemetic Ethiopian ethereal emissary of the highest eternal echelon. Behind closed doors, there's much bowing to a black image going on. She beckons, she calls for more to share her story, set her free from her prescribed walls. Who is she? See the wicked weaver's web untangle. She's the Black Madonna, the original guardian angel.
Good evening. This is G.L. Davis with breaking news. CWNN has received numerous reports of a mysterious man appearing all over the city and around the world. Details are sketchy at best, but we do have many people with eyewitness accounts of what they have seen.
I saw it. I was out there and it appeared, it disappeared, and I looked over at you to think, are you seeing this too? Because I couldn't believe it. I said, you know, I'm glad you're here because nobody would believe me if I was telling somebody about this.
I don't know, man. I was leaving work and this guy, I can't even describe what I saw. He was there, and then he just dematerialized, man. It's been a strange day. I mean, the guy walked in, he took about 20 paces down that lane, and you know what? Next thing I know, he disappeared.
I mean, like, oh my God, I really can't believe what I just seen. I mean, this is crazy, y'all. Oh my God, I mean, it's like he was there one minute, then the next minute he wasn't there. I mean, like, damn, it was the coldest thing ever. Like, I mean, he just like popped up and now he's gone. He was like a Pop-Tart.
I can't put it into words. I mean, saw this ominous light. I can't even put it into words.
No one knows what to make of this mysterious man, but somehow he has impacted people's lives in a strange way. Did you hear that? What the hell?
Let's get down with the get down. CityWorld is back.
So, what do you see? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
In the future.
Yeah, working with people, and that's where my heart is. And I make sure just every day. My grandmother was an incredible influence on me and treated people the way I wanted to be treated. And that's something I'm very adamant about. One of the things I'm a proud Cincinnati, and I'm a product of Cincinnati Public Schools. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati. I'm Cincinnati through and through, and I love Cincinnati. But one thing I want people to understand, because a lot of times when in jobs like these, they think, oh, I have to have a strong, political background or come from a certain family or have some type of strong political pedigree. And I always tell people, graduated from Aiken High School, what people don't really think is a great high school. It was the most wonderful experience I've ever had. And I want people to see me, understand that there's not much special about me, and you could do the exact same thing that I did. My mom was a single parent. There's nothing, raised very meager, means and have a whole lot of money. My mom, she always tried to, make me. She's an example of how someone tries to make their kids better than they were. Like, she always tried to expose me to classical music, and sometimes my mom didn't have a car. We get on the bus and we go downtown to see things. Like, my mom was just like, this is, we don't have a lot of money, but that doesn't mean we have to limit ourselves. Exactly. And so I want kids and I want people to know that don't, we put the limits on ourselves. I don't let anybody tell me, what's in the stars for me. I love PG. He's my boss, technically speaking, but I don't let him tell me. He'll tell you. Sometimes I probably scratch his head and wonder why he hired me. But, I don't let anybody dictate to me what's for me.
Strength, it begins strength.
It does. It does. And so, we have issues where, we disagree, right, and I don't back down, but we make a great team, and I'm happy for the experience because it's given me a lot of exposure. And I've seen Cincinnati in ways that I probably would not ordinarily seen. So it actually made me appreciate Cincinnati a little bit more. And so ultimately I do.
It sounds like your mom and your grandmother were very strong influences for you. What was your religious background? What did they expose you to in terms of your spirituality, should I say, your spiritual path?
My grandmother was extremely religious. She was on every single usher board at church. And my mom isn't that religious. But my grandmother was probably the strongest influence on me, just because she's strength and just being who you are. I mean, I was like, I'm the darkest person in my family. And I remember the conversation I had with my grandmother about, I think I was like 5 or 6. Okay. And, when I first realized how dark I was, and I said, Grandma, I'm the darkest person in the family. And she would tell me that, the sun was perfecting me. And, she always had ways of putting things where I never felt like I was inferior to anybody.
Positive.
Always. Like my mom, she always told me, even with boys and growing up, and, she always said, you make sure you're always the prize. Like, I don't care what's going on. Right. You're the prize. So, my grandma and my mother instilled an incredible amount of self-worth, which is probably the greatest thing you can give somebody, is knowing who you are. Exactly. No matter what, you matter. And, my grandmother, my grandmother raised me in church, and, I love the Lord, but she also taught me, people use the word tolerate. My grandma said, you don't ever tolerate. Like, they say we're tolerant. Don't tolerate others. You accept others. And that's something that she taught me things from when I was much younger that I didn't realize until I got older what she was saying. She would say things, and I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about. But now that she passed away, now that I'm older, a lot of things that she told me and taught me have come into fruition.
Because there is, that's interesting, because there is a difference between tolerance and acceptance. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? I mean, what have you grown to learn, in terms of the difference, tolerating and just taking something, putting up with something?
Yeah, see,
acceptance is...
Yeah, exactly. Tolerance is putting up with it.
Yeah.
And we're all different. There is... And life has done this to me, too. I've been in a lot of different experiences where, people say, what's one thing about you that makes you different? You can put, I guarantee you, almost anybody in this room, and I'll be able to relate to them. And that's because I've had so many different experiences. And that's because my grandmother early on, she taught me love, like God is love, no matter what.
Yes.
God is love. So, somebody's different from you, that's okay. And that, as I've gotten older, I appreciate it. I remember last year, campaigning, we were in a gay pride parade. And, I was there as a campaigner, but then it I've always, been very accepting of different people, as I hope they've been accepting of me. But it just thinking about my grandmother just loved everybody. She was a little different. People used to say my grandma was a different kind of Christian. And she loved that. Because
and that's okay.
That's okay.
It
was okay. So earlier this year, I became a LBGT ally. I trained to become an ally because that was important to me. So it wasn't enough for me to just accept others. I wanted to find out what I can do to progress people forward and help be a change agent. In the next 2 weeks or next week, I think I'm going to be a guest lecturer at Cincinnati State on diversity.
Okay.
Because that's extremely important to me. Just loving everybody, make sure everybody is loved. I mean, I've seen kids who, because they were different, taking their own lives because they were afraid that their families weren't going to accept them.
Exactly.
All kinds of stuff like that. So, just be who you are. And my grandma always said, be who you are, and just know that that's always good enough. And that's something I've taken, I've internalized, and I've tried to kind of, give others, like, kids at my church and things like that. Just be who you are.
So you're very involved. You mentioned your church. You're very involved in the activities that go on in the church as well.
Sure.
Well, I know. Well, just from talking with you, speaking with you now, I know that influence is there naturally. But are there some things directly that you contribute to in the church?
One thing I think for me, because service is so important, but a lot of times in church, a lot of people, I don't say my age, even younger, that they're jaded by church because they think church people are one certain way. Like, all church people are this. I'm a different kind of Christian, and I love that. Yes, I confess Jesus as my Lord and Savior, but I love hip hop music. I love, I don't always say the right thing, but I want kids to know that you can love the Lord and you don't have to have a just rigid, life where you don't have any fun. And so one of the things I try to infuse at church is energy. Christians do laugh, people do, and even so much, not even just Christianity. I'm okay with saying I'm a Christian. I'm not a fan of religion. I'm really more of a fan of being spiritual and doing, doing to others what they would have you do, what you would have them doing to you. That's the main thing.
Because you sow what you reap,
Yeah,
everything is cause and effect.
It is, and I think that we all have
and
then there's responsibility to each other.
Exactly, and then there's a certain amount of accountability, when you take that path and start to recognize yourself as being that spiritual being, and it should show up in all of your life, in all areas of your life. Like you said, we make decisions and choices, based off of how we would want other people to treat us.
Yeah, I haven't always done the right thing. I still don't always do the right thing, but and kids, like, they make mistakes, and God is still with you. Like, no matter.
More City World right after this.
Can't stop this feeling of love. Can't stop this feeling. It's like a glove. You feel it, get a vibe from this feeling of love. It's not hard to love neighbor as thyself. With love in our hearts, it's easy to do.
I saw it. I was out there and it appeared, it disappeared, and I looked over at you and think, are you seeing this too? Because I couldn't believe it. I said, I'm glad you.
This guy can't describe. It's been a strange.
I mean, like, oh my God, I really can't believe what I just. Damn, it was the coldest thing ever. Like, I mean, he just like popped up and now he's gone. He's like a Pop-Tart.
I mean, I saw this ominous light. I can't even put it into words.
No one knows what to make of this mysterious man, but somehow he has impacted people's lives in a strange way. Did you hear that? What the hell?
The following copyrighted material is presented under the provisions of fair use, all rights reserved where applicable. A queen she be, highly, divinely. Her perpetual patent exclusion from the popular public pantheon reminds me how she, many she's, several scores of her she progeny were scorched and scorned, forbidden and forlorn, sinisterly sworn into sexist secrecy for centuries. Sleeping sycophants still steadily say she could never represent the divine feminine. Upon close inspection, one finds distortions deeper than ancient Cushite baptismal pools early Christians went swimming in. Sunday school lessons stress and never question the images taught ya, but evidence shows the models used were Medicis and Borgias. We can't afford to disregard the design and the history that could destroy the deception, dismantle the mystery. Why aren't more of us searching and looking? Smell the stew those that dig for truth are cooking. Images themselves aren't inherently problematic, but when paired with devious, dubious, dehumanizing context, intent, and events, the denominator is synaptic static. What's crazy and wild is that the original origin points to a certain Eastern mother and child, a Kemetic Ethiopian ethereal emissary of the highest eternal echelon. Behind closed doors, there's much bowing to a black image going on. She beckons, she calls for more to share her story, set her free from her prescribed walls. Who is she? See the wicked weaver's web untangle. She's the Black Madonna, the original guardian angel.
Let's get down with the get down. CityWorld is back.
About things you said about your grandmother lets me know that she was a very wise woman.
She was incredible
and very to the point.
Yeah, that's where I got my sense of humor too. My grandma was like extremely funny, and she taught me really don't take myself seriously. She would. A lot of people are like, probably don't know this, but a lot of people think I'm like extremely funny.
You probably
know this. You just met me about an hour ago, but it's something that my grandmother, gave to my sense of humor. Just always, people think I'm just a riot, and sometimes I don't know if they're laughing with me or
at you.
I can figure it out. Yeah.
But you know what? It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Laughter is good. I think that's the key to.
Reverend Ike used to say, one of his sayings was, "It's none of my business." Other people's opinions of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
What's more important is your opinion of yourself.
That's it.
That's
exactly it. So,
I just think that's so powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
And I do. I just try not to think about. I just constantly try to do right by people. Mm-hmm. So I always tell you, do right by people. Sometimes you mess up. We all mess up. Don't crucify yourself. It happens to everybody. You can't. You can't walk into your newness and who you are when you worry about a mistake you made 20 years ago. You gotta let it go. If I didn't let mistakes go, I don't know where I would be. So
exactly.
My friend told me that you reinvented yourself, and that was awesome that he said that to me, because I feel like that's something that I've always tried to do, is just be renewed and into politics. He meant that in the sense of in terms of getting involved in politics. He was like, just when I think you are just awesome, you reinvent yourself. And I was like, yeah, I like that. So maybe to go back to the earlier question that you asked me earlier in terms of what's in my future, just continue to evolve and get better, and, make good on mistakes that I've made. Just continue to be better.
I have a question on PG. How is he accepting, his new role and new responsibility?
He is awesome, and I say that because it's easy for me because I work for him. He's technically my employer, but he is. I'm happy. A lot of people are coming to me and saying, "Hey, PG's all right," or I didn't vote for him. Next time I will. Right. I love to hear that because we knew we weren't going to be able to win everybody over. I understand that he's white, young, somewhat of a privileged background. There was going to be a certain, people were going to try to box him in a certain way.
Right.
And for me, the whole time, I'm thinking to myself, Oh yeah, we're gonna prove them wrong. And I tell him all the time, like, we're gonna prove him wrong. But he's done a great job. He listens to everybody. He encourages what we do, how our office is in a way a reflection of him. He's very high energy, so we keep our energy high. You come to the office, we have very high energy. He cares about what's going on in every neighborhood. When we get a constituent email, he follows up, to make sure that we call her back, that we do the XYZ. He's very into what he's doing, and it's been exciting, and it's just not really, he's a Democrat by, party affiliation, but it's just really doing what makes sense by people. And sometimes we fall in line with other Democrats, and sometimes we don't, which I love about him. We just don't do things because everybody else on council is a Democrat does it, and I love that about him. He's a little bit of a renegade, and he looks very traditional looking, but he's very much a renegade, and how he thinks about things sometimes is pretty incredible.
And you know what? The other piece is too, maybe his age, because the younger generation see things, totally different. They have a totally different energy and an approach to life. To me, I see this generation like 30 and under, or 35 and under.
Thanks for saying 35.
I did that for a reason. I had to remember who I was talking to.
You talk to an old lady, like, I mean 85 and under.
And these days, it's not even really about the numbers, in terms of age, because there's a lot of people, that I talk with that are under 30 and have a lot going on. In terms of how they see the world and what they, how they represent.
This end of this edition of CityWorld, we'd like to thank Samaya Denard, Director of Community Affairs, for joining us on CityWorld. Make sure you keep it locked right here, and don't forget, go to www.pivoco.com and get more information on CityWorld. It's going down. It's your man DJ Todd Blaze. Make sure you check me out later. Hello.